Good morning, everyone. Aloha, and thank you for joining us for our NAMI Hawaii State Conference in partnership with Mental Health America of Hawaii. We're going to start with Reverend Jazzy, who will open us up with a pule and blessing. Thank you, Jazzy.
My pleasure. So when Kumi shared with me that the theme of this gathering was a community of hope, I looked up how hope is defined in the dictionary. It's defined as a feeling of expectation and desire for a certain thing to happen, or a feeling of trust. As a verb, it's defined as to want something to happen. Hope is an essential part of life. Without it, life can feel almost unbearable. We have to have hope in something outside of ourselves, in something good coming, in the meaning of our work, in a higher power, in each other. It might not matter what we hope for, but it certainly matters that we hope. And the work that many of you do, caring for the most vulnerable among us, providing support networks to plug into, coming alongside people to form a community and a safety net, reaching out to families who feel overwhelmed. Your work brings hope. Your work is essential and meaningful, and it matters. Thank you. I wanted to offer you a blessing of your work, which is written by an Irish Catholic priest, John O'Donoghue. May the light of your soul guide you. May the light of your soul bless the work you do with the secret love and warmth of your heart. May you see in what you do the beauty of your own soul. May the sacredness of your work bring healing, light, and renewal to those who work with you and to those who see and receive your work. May your work never weary you. May it release within you well springs of refreshment, inspiration, and excitement. May you be present in what you do. May you never become lost in the bland absences. May the day never burden you. May dawn find you awake and alert, approaching your new day with dreams, possibilities, and promises. May evening find you gracious and fulfilled. May you go into the night blessed, sheltered, and protected. May your soul calm, console, and renew you. And I'd like to share with you the Hawaiian doxology to close, to ground you in your work and in the time that we spend together today, and to affirm that this is the work of light and love in our world. Ho'onani ka makua mau, ke keiki me ka uhane no, ke akua mau ho'o mai ka ipu, ko ke au ko ke lau. Amen.
You, Reverend Jazzy. That was beautiful. Thank you for that blessing. Next, we're going to have Debbie Zimmerman, our board president, share. Thank you, Debbie.
Aloha, and thank you for that beautiful blessing, Jazzy. I feel so blessed already. But welcome everyone to the 2022 NAMI Hawaii State Conference, and it is indeed my pleasure and privilege to be serving as the president this year. Before I continue, allow me to introduce the remainder of the NAMI Hawaii board. So perhaps we could pull up the slides. Great, thank you. So serving as our vice presidents, we have Amy Morton-Sogi, who is just a wonderful attorney, and I'm sure some of you have been privileged to participate in her support group sessions. And then Dana Anderson, who has served on the board for many years and just has so much wisdom to contribute. There's Mike Williams, who's got the job I would never want to do. He's our treasurer. And we're so lucky to have a CPA in that capacity to make sure we're good stewards of all of our money. And then also Mike Durant, who is kind of like Yoda of our organization. He goes back from the beginning with NAMI Hawaii, and he is a rock and pillar of our entire organization. Next slide. And then these are the balance of our board members and advisors. We have a very big leadership community in NAMI Hawaii, and we are so blessed by all the different gifts that they bring to us. And I'll give you just a few minutes to read their names. I wish we were in person where we could high five and hug them, but they contribute regularly to our organization, and we wouldn't be the same without them. Okay, moving on. There is no doubt that the last 2 years have been extremely challenging. Unless you were an essential worker, did you ever dream that you would spend so much time in your own home, or hidden behind a face mask, or unable to hug your ailing kapuna? Loneliness, coupled with economic insecurity, created a season when the mental health challenges we confronted seemed almost as threatening as the virus itself. That's why I love the title of this year's conference, Community of Hope. I've always believed that no person is an island, and that community is an important avenue to hope when confronting challenges. This principle is well illustrated in the Disney movie Finding Nemo. So when Nemo's beloved friend Dory gets caught in the fisherman's net, let's take a look.
Dory!
Come on! Help! Dory! Get us out!
No! Dory!
Dad, I know what to do!
Nemo! No!
We have to tell all the fish to swim down together!
Get out of there
I
now!
know this will work!
No, I am not gonna lose you again!
Dad, there's no time! It's the only way we can save Dory! I can do this!
You're right. I know you can.
Lucky Finn!
Now go! Hurry!
Tell all the fish to swim down!
Well, you heard my son? Come on!
Dory, you have to tell everybody to
Swim down together! You understand what I'm saying to you? Swim down!
Everybody swim down! Come on, you have to swim down! Swim down, okay?
Down! Swim down! Swim down! Swim down! Don't give up! Keep swimming! Just keep swimming! That's it!
It's working!
Just keep swimming! Keep swimming!
Come on, Dad!
You're doing great, son!
That's my dad!
Come on, let's get to the bottom! Keep swimming!
Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming.
Almost there! Keep swimming!
Yes, we must swim together when the going gets tough. I know from personal experience the pain associated with watching a loved one hit rock bottom. But we must believe that our destiny is not defined by our lowest points. When our loved ones are running out of oxygen, we must expand our communities. And we must seek to find effective strategies and encouragement. And we must believe that our test is going to be our testimony. And when we have pulled back from the darkness and into the light, we must give back and volunteer to NAMI Hawaii. Enjoy the conference and learning about how NAMI Hawaii is building communities of hope for you.
Wow, thank you, Debbie. That's just hits the heart. I just wanted to say that we definitely do need to keep on swimming. And I know personally as well, during the pandemic, it's been a tough season for us all. And we know that for many of us, we had to hold on to something. We had to hold on to hope. And so with that, I'm going to share our slides here. So let me share that. So let's see. Oh my goodness. I need more practice. So everyone, thank you very much. My name is Kumi MacDonald, and I am the Executive Director of NAMI Hawaii. And I would love to share with you a little bit of how NAMI is playing the role of hope in our community. And we band together, just like Nemo and his friends did in the ocean. We have to just keep swimming. And so faith is a big part of many of our recovery journeys, whether you're a family member caring for someone who has a mental health condition, or you yourself have struggles with mental health conditions. And I know that I am both. And especially during the pandemic, none of us were immune to anxiety and stress. And so with that, I wanted to share with you a little bit of a program that NAMI Hawaii provides, and it is called the Bridges of Hope. It is a part of our FaithNet programming. So the FaithNet, what is FaithNet, first of all? It is not a place where we're going to preach. We're not trying to promote our religion or our faith to anyone. What it is, it's an interfaith resource where people of faith, clergy, congregation, all of these people come together to find support, or they might be a community that's welcoming of people with mental health conditions. Perhaps they see people in their church or their temple or their faith group that are struggling and say, we need to provide resources for these people. They want to promote vital roles of spirituality in the recovery journey. And that is why NAMI partners with these faith communities. Again, we are not here to preach. We're just saying there's a lot of people who have faith in something that higher than themselves, and we want to partner with that to help bring mental health resources to their community. So how this, I'm just going to give you a really condensed version of this presentation called Bridges of Hope. And it is a program within FaithNet again. And it just basically just tells you what is mental health, how is spirit and your faith related to mental health, and what you can do as a community. And I'm just going to whiz through these slides just so that you know what we discuss in these presentations. And usually these presentations are done in a church group, maybe a small group or a Bible study, or I've done it for a Buddhist community. I've done it for Episcopalians on Sunday morning service. So wherever the faith community invites us, we will come and do this presentation. So we just generally discuss these 3 points, and we talk about what is a mental health condition. I will, if you want these slides, they're available to you after our conference, but I'm going to go through them pretty quickly. And again, we're just going to talk about what are the different kinds of mental health conditions that are prevalent. And we know that during the pandemic, it's not 1 in 5, but more like 3 in 5. So the numbers have gone up during the pandemic. But we also talk about what are some symptoms that people could be looking for that they might be seeing in their friends, in their loved ones, or maybe in themselves. And then we talk about why there is hope for people with mental health conditions. We talk about the faith in their community, also that recovery, early intervention provides a lot of hope for recovery. And we also address some of these questions that are a little bit challenging. Where is God in this? Why do bad things happen to good people? What have we done wrong? And how can my faith help? What's next? How do I cope and manage? Because we know that a lot of people who are struggling with mental health conditions, or their families who are struggling with mental health conditions, before seeing a primary care physician, before seeing a therapist or a clinician, they will go to their faith community and find support there. We know that's a fact. So yeah, they turn to their faith community, churches, mosques, temples, to see where they can get safety and support. So faith does play a key role in that. So we also address, as a faith community, what can your faith community do? What can you do specifically for a loved one or family member or for yourself, right? How can you act, right? So we talk about caring languages. We teach them how to speak to someone who is struggling with a mental health condition, how to show care. Like when someone's going, I'm feeling really depressed, and we go, well, just be joyful, that is not very supportive. And so we teach language and what are the appropriate things to say and do, how to reach out to an individual who may be showing some of these symptoms, but maybe not ready to get help. So we teach them conversation tips and how to show compassionate care, how to show support. And then we show them next steps, like what you can do to keep being a community of support in the faith community. We also give them steps, like this is an example of one faith community that took it to their church and actually lived it out within their church setting. This is for Orange County. They actually created a ministry within their church for people with mental health conditions. So this was started by Rick Warren, whose son had died by suicide back in 2013. In that church, they give you these little tips, and we also borrow from it. It's not only for Christian churches. I think a Buddhist community or a Jewish community can borrow all of these tips as well. But what that church shows is that you can do crawl steps, which means, well, I don't really have staffing. I don't have a budget in my church. What can we do? You can do these crawl steps, right? You can just do a little prayer. You can do provide some education and awareness. And again, we can come in and help with all of these things. We can provide a free space for support groups, and we can help you with that as well. So these are crawl steps. And then they also talk about walk steps. If, let's say you do have maybe a one part-timer that is overseeing that ministry, maybe you could do a little more. And then if you're a really big mega church with 5,000 people, maybe you can do a run step, right? And have counseling service and specific mental health education and support groups and things like that happening within your congregation. So those are just some examples. And then if you want to learn more about NAMI, we give that resource as well, saying that there's a lot of free resources out there. We talk about our community and how to access all of our different affiliates. And then we talk about our work, which is support, education, advocacy, and awareness. And we talk about you can build a movement within your community and that we can do this together, that we are a community of hope. So with that, that's FaithNet. If you want to learn more, that's the site. You can learn more from our website. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and share, have our three panelists share on their journey of faith, how their faith has helped them during the pandemic, and how they used it for their mental health recovery or the recovery of their loved one. And at first, I'm going to have Martha Noborikawa. She is a member of our local FaithNet support group, and she's going to share a little bit about how that FaithNet support group has helped her. So with that, Martha, would you unmute yourself and share?
Good morning, everyone. I'm really happy to be here with all of you to share a little bit of my story and how I got involved with NAMI and NAMI FaithNet. So about 2 years ago, my grandson, who is now 30, was diagnosed with schizophrenia, bipolar, and I always get this word mumbled up, but anosognosia. And it was really a hard journey, from the beginning for our family. So learning about what the illness meant and how it would affect him, and our family's lives, and finding out how to navigate getting my grandson the help he needed. So my daughter, my grandson's mom, learned about NAMI actually through her psychologist. So, from that, we started, attending the family NAMI support meetings. And with that, it was such a relief. So attending the meetings really gave us a sense of comfort and hope to know that we weren't, on this journey, alone. Because I think for a lot of folks, we're not really aware of what mental illness, is all about. So we were able to hear what the other families were going through and what they did, to help their loved ones. And that was really extremely helpful, to us. So later on, I took the family to family class, which I highly recommend. It was very educational, gave, the understanding about mental illness, conditions, preparing for crisis, getting a diagnosis, treatment options, and so much more. And then I was happy to find out that NAMI offered the FaithNet support group, which allows people of Christian faith to express through their faith the hope and comfort to help our loved ones and ourselves, because I think it's so important that we ourselves get the support in order to help them. And so for me, being on the FaithNet, where we can share our faith, our scriptures, we can pray together. I mean, that speaks volumes into what we can speak into our loved ones' lives. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. That was lovely. Now we'll have Will Molina share on his faith journey and how faith has helped him in his recovery journey. Will?
Hello, everybody. Hi. Thank you so much for inviting me here. And I really appreciate what you guys do in the community and what you guys organization and reaching out to a lot of families or ohana and giving them the help or information that they need. So awesome job that you guys are doing. Really appreciate that. My name is William Molina. I'm a U.S. Marine vet. I have my own organization. It's called Dads Against Doing Drugs, as well as I have a video and photography business called MCD Multimedia, MCD Weddings. Anyway, my journey towards the dark road of this illness happened when I was a young child. And it was when my dad passed away, and he died in my arms as a 12-year-old kid. And as a 12-year-old, there's so many things that goes on, and there was a lot of pain, a lot of hurt, a lot of anger, and a lot of destruction because there was no guidance. And through all that, as I was growing up in my teen years, I had the talk of, you're no good. You're not to be nothing. You're not going to be anything that's going to be worth here in this lifetime. And to hear those words, to hear that, it really started to work a lot of things in my mind. And at that time, I really didn't have any confidence in who I was, because everything that was spoke to me, it was putting me down. And through all that mess I was going through, it started to get even darker down a road that I started charging on. So I thought drugs and alcohol was the key and the answer to everything. And it just went from one drug to the next, to the next, to the next. And it just got worse and worse and worse. But in my mind, I was thinking that I'm all good. I got this, I can handle this. But it was so many emotional pain and so many of the emotions that was going through me that I covered up, right? So I harnessed it and I held it in, and I didn't want it to be exposed or to share with anybody, because I thought I got this. Yeah, I'm a man. I'm a young man. I got this. Well, as the years went on, yeah, I ended up enlisting to the Marine Corps, thinking it would get better. Um, it was right before that part. Kind of let me, I getting a little ahead of myself. Right before that part, I remember coming home one night to my girlfriend at that time, and I just graduated from high school in '83, and I was bouncing off on all these drugs that I took, and I remember that as time went on, that very night, the amount of drugs and alcohol that I took, it was that night that I decided, you know, I wanted to kill myself. You know, only because no one was showing me love. No one told me that they loved me. You know, that word love is a very powerful word. And it was that night that I remember coming home to her and she's yelling and screaming at me at 3 a.m. And I remember telling her, stop, please stop. She didn't want to stop. She kept on going. So I grabbed her head and I slammed her head into a stone wall and she went down. And the worst part was she was 3 months pregnant. But at that very moment, it felt like the hand of God slapped me behind my head and I woke up instantly and I felt like I didn't do drugs or alcohol. And I knew at that very moment I had to get away from the things here in Hawaii, from my friends, so-called friends. And so I enlisted into the Marine Corps, thinking it'll get better. But let me go back. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. She's okay today, as well as my son. We both have actually 5 healthy, beautiful kids together. And so when I went into the Marine Corps, I thought I could change my life around and everything, which I did. But that pain from my past as a child is still stuck onto me. It never changed. And so when I went to the Marine Corps, it just got worse. And to the point, I ended up in a federal prison. And it was around that time, I remember God came into my life and he just changed the whole picture about everything. I remember going down to a Word of Life and this pastor was speaking. I never went to this church before. And I remember talking to God, to myself, saying, okay, I'll tell you what, God, I'll work for you. I have no problems working for you. This guy to my left stands up, walk up to the altar, gives himself up to you, receives you as his Lord and Savior. Fine, okay. I'll do the same, you know, speaking to myself on the inside, nobody else knows, right? 2 minutes later, this guy walks on the aisle and I could have picked anybody else out in the church, but because I thought this guy was squared away, he had his suit and Bible, and evidently he wasn't. So I went, and I remember getting to that altar, and I remember as soon as I hit that altar, I broke down in tears, and I started crying and crying, and I just felt this heavy burden lift off of me. And it was at that night that I remember my whole life, my whole perspective changed that night because of that. And that point on, it's just made so much difference in how I live my life. I knew that I had to change a lot of things, and a lot of things had to come from me, from myself. It was an easy road. It was not an easy road. It was a very hard road to journey on. But the fact was, being committed and having faith in what I believed in helped me a lot to get through what I was going through. The other big thing that changed my life was this movie that I seen, and it was called Kia Kaha, Forever Strong. And it has to do with these young men being taught about their family name, being taught about, you know, who they are as a person themselves and as a person in a community and as a team. You know, that really changed me a lot. But the one big factor that really changed was love. That word love, that 4-letter word, LOVE, it changed a lot for me. Because when somebody else came into my life and showed me what love is and taught me that and embraced me with it, with that affection, that support, it really built me up, you know. And a prime example was when I was in prison, I had these two we call bulls in the place. And one of them would come to my room, and this guy was filled with he was just not right, put it that way. And I remember coming to my room screaming and yelling and just full of violence. And I remember this inner voice telling me, tell him you love him. Tell him you love him. And of course, you're in prison, you tell a guy you love him, you think that, you're not right too as well. So I say, brother, hey, just to let you know, I just want to tell you straight from a brother to another brother, I love you. And as soon as I said that, he just broke down crying, literally broke down. And he told me, you know what, Will, through my 17 years in prison, not once have my family members or friends or anybody ever told me that word love. And that made a difference in his life, which changed his whole course of how he looked at things in life. And today he has a beautiful family, attending church, as well as this other guy, same exact thing that happened. And he's changed his whole life around. Because when we share something that's deep within ourselves that we can give back, it makes a big difference. We walk the walk, we can talk the talk. Because if we keep doing what we're doing, keep getting what we're getting, nothing changes if nothing changes. Not sure that what I'm trying to say gets across, but all I know that what did change for me has helped, and hopefully it'll help someone else, that's watching this here today. So anyway, I want to just thank you, everybody. Mahalo. Aloha.
Thank you, Will, for that inspiring story and so encouraging. Thank you, Will. Next, we're going to have Joni Musselman, our new trainer of trainers for family to family education that she took over the weekend with 3 hours sleep. She showed up this morning. So with that, let's have Joni come and share.
Good morning, everybody. I see a lot of beautiful faces here that I recognize, not only from support groups and family to family classes, but just joining meetings. My journey into NAMI and FaithNet was completely, I think, different than what everyone else's here was. I was raised in Southwest Arizona, and I was going through a situation of my sister was suffering from schizoaffective, newly diagnosed. My ex-husband was a full-blown schizophrenic, newly diagnosed. And I started noticing things with my children that they were showing with similar symptoms. And I joined a place called La Frontera, which is the mental health clinic in Tucson, Arizona. Wonderful people. Their therapist that they were assigned, my girl's therapist, looked at me and said, because I wanted to run. I didn't know what to do. I was at the end of my rope. It was either cut and run or just crawl up in a closet somewhere and cry myself to death. She said, there's someone I want to introduce you to. And she introduced me to this nice Native American man. Amazing man, actually. And he looked at me the first day and he says, I want you to call me grandfather. Okay, I can do that. Both my grandfathers are deceased. He is now. I want to introduce you to two things. Number one, I want to introduce you to a group called NAMI, National Association on Mental Illness. Perfect. Okay, let's do this. Then he said, now I want to introduce you to something that's inside you. It's called faith. I said, we're not doing this. No, I was not religious. I had a father who was atheist. I had a mother that was a recovering Jewish woman. Nope, we're not doing this. He said, no, I understand it's a little too much for you to take in one gulp. So what I want you to do is Sunday, I want you to come to my house about noon, and I'm going to walk you down a different road of faith. Okay, I'll do this. He said, don't worry about the children. I have ladies that'll be there that'll watch your children for you. So I showed up. First thing he did was stick me in a sweat lodge for 3 hours in 110-degree Arizona weather. I got put in a sweat lodge and I spent 3 hours crying. And he says, this is good we chanted, we prayed. He says, you're now sweating out all the bad medicine. After that, he sat me down and he said, listen, all that negativity that you had inside of you not only affects you, but it affects your loved ones. If you can't let go of that and fill yourself up with something better, how are you going to help your children? Point. I get it. I get it. So, but I'm still not joining your church. Won't do it. He says, you don't have to join my church. Not only am I a minister, I'm also a shaman. And I want to give you good medicine. So I kind of explored off into that area of religious belief and faith. Completely different than most faiths. They recognize ancestors. They recognize that the earth is very important to not only the world, but to people. You have to, the earth has to be well for you to be well. When I started, every Sunday I would go there, we would do a sweat lodge, we would do a vision quest. It was enlightening. And I realized that not only was I had all this bad medicine in me, I also had a lot of anger, a lot of frustration, and I did not know what love was, like you will. I didn't know. I didn't know how to share it. I didn't know how to practice it, and I didn't know how to receive it. Because if you don't love yourself, you can't love someone else, and you can't accept love from someone else. I spent months and years practicing falling in love with myself. And by falling in love with myself, I fell in love with my children. I fell in love with the earth. I fell in love with the water and the sky and everyone around me. And realized that every word he spoke about and all that negativity that you carry around inside of you, you're passing on. And if you can't let that negativity go and fill yourself up with love instead, you're just perpetuating another person being negative and being sad and being unhappy. So how are you going to change it? You're going to take the love that you've developed for yourself and you're going to pass it on. And that's where my journey into NAMI began, was just being basically a peer person for other people that would join the group in Arizona. Didn't have any responsibilities, didn't do any volunteering. But when a new person showed up, it was me that sat for hours with them, listening to their story. And maybe making them understand that if you get rid of your negativity, it's not going to seem quite so bad. And you're going to be able to bring smiles to someone else. It wasn't until I moved here to Hawaii and I met a wonderful lady named Pualani Basbas, who kind of put me into, you know what, you have the right soul to become someone in NAMI that could make a difference. And she introduced me to Kumi and Loretta. And I decided to start volunteering and making it official. I volunteer. Put me in there. Put me in, coach. And I think that I'm making a really big difference. And I want to make a difference for the community and make it better. So for me, I guess what my story points to is it doesn't matter what your faith is or what your beliefs are. As long as you have that belief and you have something that you can rely on that's within yourself, you can make that difference with your family, with the community, and with the world itself.
Thank you, Joni. Thank you for that lovely sharing. Okay, next we're going to go right into Hope for Caregivers, speakers from family and friends and family to family and family support groups. And I would like to introduce Anissa Wiseman, our program director and walk manager, and she will be the moderator for this segment. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. My name is Anissa Wiseman. I am the program director for NAMI Hawaii State. Just real quick, I'll just touch on our programs. So we have We have 3 programs right now for caregivers. We have our family to family class and our family and friends presentation. Those 2 both touch on education. Really, our family programs are our heart, they're our core, and they teach people how to shift their perspective on their loved ones in order to change the dynamic of their relationship. It's really magic, our education programs. And then we have our support groups. And our support groups, the group wisdom that comes out of there is so valuable, and it gives people a foundation to stand on. So if you feel like you don't have anything and you are just swimming by yourself, come in and attend one of our support groups, because we'll swim with you and we'll get you to where you need to go. With that said, I'm gonna go ahead and go into our first question. I think I'm gonna start with Rob first, if that's okay. Rob, if you can share with us who you are and how you found NAMI. You're muted, Rob.
To unmute you. Okay, there you go.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Rob McGovern. I am actually Irish. I'm from Ireland. I've lived in Hawaii since 1979, and I met my wonderful wife in Europe, actually in Greece. I have had both my father and my brother have committed suicide. One when I was 16, my father, and my brother only 4 years ago. My father was my hero, and therefore I was very disappointed in his failure by committing suicide. So I formed a certain mindset. I was not someone who was comfortable with anyone who had health problems mentally, and so stayed far away from any members of my family that were that way. I became interested in NAMI because of watching my wife and Susan and Marcia, her sister, deal with their brother, and the purity of the way in which they did this made me aware of failings in myself. And then I became a member of NAMI. I talk too much, by the way, sorry. But that's actually how I joined. It has changed my life and has added so much to it. Both the people that are helping family members and the people who are being helped. This is wonderful. Thank you. I'm sorry I talked so much.
Perfect, Rob. Thank you so much. Now I'd like to move to Diana. Diana, can you share with us who you are and how you found NAMI?
Yes. Aloha mai kako. My name is Diana Sanchez. Hilo, Hawaii has been our family's home for 25 years. I'm a mother of a wonderful son who has lived with a difficult mental health condition for the past 20 years. When I came to NAMI feeling lost, frightened, and bewildered, thinking back, it all seems like a blur. I remember the day when the high school vice principal called and asked us to take our son to the emergency room for a mental health evaluation. I felt shocked and in a daze. I had no understanding or information about what was happening to our son. Hours later, he and I were on the flight to Oahu, where he was sent to get treatment for depression and delusions. It was my sister and her husband who encouraged us to find a local NAMI family support group in the area. And luckily, Hilo was the only place on the Big Island where monthly family support groups were being held at that time. I went to the meeting hoping to find a magic solution, a way to cure our son. Instead, through NAMI family support group, I found many understanding companions who are willing to help guide me along in my journey of having a loved one with a serious mental health condition.
Thank you, Diana. And Karen, will you please share with us who you are and how you found NAMI?
Hi, everyone. My name's Karen. I'm in Kauai, and I am the delegated affiliate leader of the Kauai chapter of NAMI. And I found NAMI originally in '05 when my son first was diagnosed and had a major episode on the day after Christmas. And after spraining my ankle, while I was speaking to him in a word salad, approximately 10 hours away from my home and where he was, I put ice on my ankle and headed back and took him to the hospital. And I remember going to a NAMI group there in Portland, Oregon, and there were a lot of very wounded people talking about their very wounded loved ones. And I wasn't sure that I could handle that at that time. And I went through a journey with my son for quite a few years, with my head into the brick wall intentionally, without much guidance, working to try and get through the system with my son. I moved here to Kauai and I found a very, very wonderful woman named Kathy Sheffield, who was doing the NAMI chapter here. And she embraced me like a sister I don't have. And she brought me into the fold and set me into training right away and support groups and told me I was qualified for everything. And so I'm super grateful to her as the NAMI director. And then as she decided to go back to Santa Barbara, she said, your turn. And so I do my best. I just completed the training with Joni yesterday, and we're proud of ourselves just for getting up at 3 or 4 in the morning to get ready for the 4:30 group that happened on the East Coast. So there are always obstacles. As Joni said, I find that most of the obstacles are ones that I either put in front of myself or don't know are in front of myself that I've put there. Most often they're obstacles I don't see that I've put there. My faith is one, it's a little bit popular psychology. I am a bachelor's in psychology and have worked as a crisis worker and in the prison systems. And so I tend to be a little heady. And my faith and spirituality is a 33-year program of Al-Anon. My family and history of our mental illness in our family has often been masked by alcoholism and other drug use. And so these things are not always teasable apart. I've done my best to articulate how I got here, how I am helped through NAMI. It's people are really willing to talk about the details of our situation, and it does help us get through it if we're heady. And regardless of whether we're heady or not, being in love and knowing love and sharing love and compassion and caring with one another and with our loved ones, learning about empathy, learning how to listen, empathize, agree, and partner is invaluable. It's just priceless. And I am shocked every day that when my son may go into a bad mood and I might distance myself a teeny bit, but remember to say, I love you and I'll talk to you soon. And I treasure every moment. I believe in Carpe Diem. His diagnosis is schizoaffective schizophrenia. Those people don't always last forever. And I find him so precious and enjoy every day with him and want to be okay with myself and how I treat him every day. So thank you for this opportunity. Hope I didn't take too long. Aloha, everyone. Blessings.
Thanks, Karen. All right, moving on to our next question. And I'd like to say I'm so grateful for all the women here, but it's so nice and refreshing to see men in these spaces too, because we need more men in these spaces. So thank you, Rob and Will, and all the men for being here today. Okay, my next question for Rob first. What programs have you attended and how have they given you hope?
Well, I have attended support groups that actually, what are the names?
Family support.
Family support groups, so I'm sorry. And also, and friends. And I've also sat in on meetings. Family to family is another one that I've actually been to. And family and friends. Is this a question I have here before me? You'll have to excuse me. Another question that you have. Oh no, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong part. This is this is why men should not be here, or men like me. Yes, I've spoken enough. I'm sorry. I've been to 3 different programs. It has changed my life.
Thank you, Rob. And Diana, can you share with us what programs have you attended and how they have given you hope?
Yes, and I'm going to apologize. I'm not an extemporaneous speaker, so it's a kind of a long answer, but here we go. So I've attended family support groups, family to family course, and family and friends presentations. So before finding NAMI, my hope was that our son would be miraculously cured by the first medicine he tried. After he became hospitalized more than a few times, I would inwardly cringe when I heard the word hope. I had not found NAMI yet, and I felt overwhelmed by trauma, stigma, and grief. For a time, hope seemed like a term best applied to the life our son enjoyed before getting his diagnosis. However, through attending NAMI programs, my definition of hope slowly began to change. In NAMI's family to family class, I learned how highly individualized prescriptions can be, and that one size does not fit all. I found it was going to be a process of trial and error, and that it would take time for our son to find an effective medication. After going to the monthly NAMI family support groups, my sense of hope changed again. I listened to others in the group talk about their challenges with their loved ones, and my hopes and expectations for our son became simpler and more realistic, and my courage to speak up and advocate for him grew stronger. Hope was becoming more of an action and less of a concept. When I was invited to become a teacher for NAMI, family to family, I accepted that opportunity. My only credentials for becoming a NAMI family to family teacher was my lived experience as a mother of a loved one with a mental health condition. To me, this meant that the participants who came to the NAMI classes were my teachers as well. We were a community of voyagers in search of hope. Through reading and rereading the text for NAMI family to family classes when I was a presenter, I began to see that there was a path through what at times felt like a walk through a very dark forest. I began to apply some of the strategies offered in the family to family classes to our family members' situation. Each time I helped present NAMI's family to family course, I was able to see a bit further through the tangle of symptomatic behaviors, stigma, family trauma, limited psychiatric and social services, encounters with law enforcement and the courts. I realized that there was a path to follow, which had been created and organized by NAMI family members who had also had loved ones with mental health conditions. These individuals had helped build and sustain the NAMI programs that provide education and community support to families for over the past 50 years. I realized that hope is the heart of the NAMI path. It is love at work. Through NAMI classes and support groups, I have met family members who are working hard to change the way those with a mental health condition are treated on the streets, in the courts, and in the prisons. This is hope in action. Through NAMI, hope grew feet and became alive and active. I would like to share two hopeful dreams I still have. One is that someday medical science will better understand the brain and make meaningful progress in curing mental health conditions. And the other hope is that someday mental health conditions will be seen as medical issues without the sting of stigma. To all of you who are here today, because you are here today, thank you, because you are part of that hope. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. Beautiful. All right, and this is going to be our last question, so it'll go to Karin again one more time. Karin.
Hi.
What programs have you attended and how have they given you hope?
I have attended the Family to Family course, and I guess how I felt it gave me hope was the everything on paper, how these things that people talk about was actually on paper, how to make a list of things that were going on with my son, his illness, his providers, his places he lived, and to this day I have this list, and I have to tell you it's quite immense. I think it's about 8 pages this day. It's been 17 years or so, 16 years of his illness, I think. And I just keep adding to it. Every once in a while, I go back and laugh at how I sounded at a previous time when I wrote the list. There's less and less, there's less and less victim all the time. Let me just say that. We are not victims, we are advocates. And I learned that in NAMI. And although we may be experiencing trauma ourselves, thanks be, I've been able to follow some of the curriculum and proceed through and make progress with advocacy. I'm asked every day to do more than I can do. And currently in NAMI, what I've learned is that I can only do what I can do, and that is enough. And Kumi teaches me that every time I talk to her. And I do want to be everything to everyone. And that is why I have a psychologist that I go see every Friday. And I've learned that too through the classes, that we take care of ourselves. So I could go on, but those are the things that are really important to me about the Family to Family course. It's 8 weeks, it's no fooling, it's really great information. I then was trained to teach that course, and I have taught it one time, and you know what they say, teachers have to know what they're talking about. So every time I get trained, I learn more of what they're talking about. So I highly recommend it. And although I still say, maybe I shouldn't, I still say that why is it the person with the broken arm has to carry groceries? That's my adage. And I say it, and I know it's a little bit negative, but I also want to say that because we have passion about our loved ones, we are the only ones that are going to do it. I have a whole family of people, someone mentioned, of people that just won't go there. Simply say, I'm coming for a vacation and you may not bring your son to my own place. So inclusivity is hard, and that's something else we deal with, and stigma, and that's something we're taught about. The basics class was really wonderful. I did that online, and it was, talked a lot about how important it is to get early diagnoses. Well, when my son was 14 and brilliant and left home and joined band and made CDs and went across the country into Europe, never occurred to me that maybe there was something underlying all of that. So I forgive myself for not knowing. And NAMI tells us every day we can't do what we don't know. And so, yeah, the basics is really great if you have a young person who is just looking a little uncertain and having difficulties. It's a great place to start. And it's a great place to have anyway to go. And just there's more information there that's not in the family to family course. And then, of course, the support groups I go to regularly. And I was recently just took the course so that now I can teach other people to facilitate the support groups. And I'm looking forward to letting go and letting the chapter in Kauai grow way beyond my abilities. And that's the humility that I need. I'm a proud Serbocroat. And
Thank
so
you.
I have to let go of that and turn it over. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Elise.
Karen. Thank you to Karen and all of our leaders and caregivers for speaking and for lighting the way for all of us on our path to hope, because we need other people to light the way for sure. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and hand it back over to Kumi.
Wow, thank you very much for all of you sharing, especially Diana, who went through some challenges and showed up. Thank you very much, Kathy, for helping her with tech, and for Karen and Joni, who stayed up all night over the weekend to take that training and still show up this morning. And to all of you, thank you, Rob and Susan, for your share as well. Okay, we're going to go right into Hope for Crisis Intervention. Our moderator for this segment is Dr. Mestiza Goss from Mental Health America of Hawaii. And if you need a bathroom break or a coffee break, please just go ahead and take it, because we kind of ran out of a little bit of time. So we're just going to go right into CIT. Thank you, Mestiza. Take it away.
Aloha, everyone. I want to talk just a minute about what CIT is. It's a crisis intervention training. It's actually been around since 1988. Unfortunately, it was born out of a really difficult moment with someone who was in a mental health crisis, and they actually died when there was police intervention and there was some safety issues. And so what happened was that NAMI family members and other community members came together and really rallied around the importance of making sure that people were educated about how to step in and how to safely decrease any type of like heightened situation, de-escalate, and support that individual and the families. And we're just so thankful that NAMI and the other partners have brought that training into Honolulu and the other parts of Hawaii. And with that being said, I just want to say I'm very blessed to be part of that team, to be a trainer, and to be a trainer of trainers. And I really enjoy being able to provide that extra support and just to know that our community has it as well. With that being said, I want to hand it over to Heather. She is the Executive Director at Hawaii Health and Harm Reduction Center, and she's our co-lead for CIT.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate the opportunity to talk today. Excuse me, let me get my slides. Can you see my slides okay, Dr. Gass? Yes, okay. Yes, I'm Heather Lusk with the Hawaii Health and Harm Reduction Center, and we work to reduce harm, promote health, create wellness, and fight stigma in Hawaii and the Pacific. We work at the intersection of the criminal legal system, chronic disease like HIV, mental health, substance use, and houselessness. And lastly, if you do have anybody that might benefit from our services, please visit our website, and we could do warm handoffs and meet folks where they're at. So really encourage you, if you don't know much about H3RC, to find out more. But I'm here today as one of the community co-chairs, along with the fabulous Kumi, to talk a bit about crisis intervention teams. So I've been listening today and been really inspired by the stories of hope. And I think that CIT fits right along with these stories, and you'll be hearing a few stories of hope specific to the crisis intervention team. But I'm first just going to give you a brief history of CIT. Even though we just heard a little bit, from Dr. Gass, and then get in specifically to the Honolulu Crisis Intervention Team. So according to CIT International, it's a community partnership of law enforcement, mental health, addiction professionals, individuals with lived experience, as well as our families and other advocates. And I have to say, as somebody who's been blessed to be part of CIT from the beginning, it truly is a law enforcement community partnership. You're going to hear later from some of our community partners, as well as Major Mike Lambert, who is our champion at the Honolulu Police Department. But this is more than just a training. So many people think of crisis intervention team or crisis intervention training as if the training of law enforcement professionals in de-escalation and in other behavioral health issues is the end result, when actually that's just the beginning. And so we're going to talk a bit about our experience with the training, but also how the training in many other communities has really sparked system change and community level change. And I think we're seeing that here in Hawaii, and specifically here on the island of Oahu. As you just heard from Dr. Gass, this was developed out of NAMI on the continent, reaching out to law enforcement professionals in Memphis in 1988 when somebody with mental health challenges was killed by the police. But it's become so much more than that, but that is the roots of this model. And when we're looking at the goals of CIT, CIT International is probably one of the best websites out there. It has two main goals. One is to develop the most compassionate and effective crisis response system that is the least intrusive into a person's life. And then secondly, to help people with mental health or substance use challenges access the medical treatment and social support. You heard of some of the great resources that NAMI provides, both individuals and families. So it's really trying to address behavioral health outside of the criminal legal system and get people and families the supports that they need, and particularly address the medical component, because most of the time we're talking about whether it's substance use or mental health, that's really driving the touches with law enforcement and the crisis, and therefore wanting to address it from a crisis and public health perspective and less of a criminal legal perspective. So we now have, I believe it's over 40 states in the United States have CIT here on the island of Oahu. We've been doing this since 2018, and we have allies on some of the neighbor islands as well. Maui and Kauai have, as well as Big Island, done some pieces of this, and hopefully we can continue to build capacity in all of our law enforcement partners statewide. But myself and Kumi and many of you else on the line right here and other partners were brought together in 2018 because of a grant that the Honolulu Police Department, and at the time police HPD psychologist Alicia Rodriguez, got a grant to not only bring CIT to Honolulu, but to actually train a cadre of trainers here and do a whole bunch of community building. As I mentioned, the training and the program is just one piece of hopefully a larger model of crisis intervention, again, from both law enforcement and community perspectives. In 2019, we got formally trained as trainers, and there's many folks again on the line that are officially trained. And then in 2020, as you know, COVID impacted our ability to do in-person trainings. This really is an in-person model, given that there's de-escalation and skill building. I'm a social worker and one of the folks trained in de-escalation. We were able to, thank you Kumi and NAMI, and also to the Hawaii Department of Health. We did played with some online CIT in 2020 and some seminars. We think it was effective, but also it reinforced that in-person is ideal. And we are grateful that we started back in September of 2021. And we have 4 cohorts scheduled in 2022, in addition to a train of the trainers. So we'll really encourage you all, if you're interested in getting involved, to reach out to myself or Kumi or any of the rest of the team involved in the crisis intervention team here in Honolulu. As I mentioned, the sequential intercept model, which is a pretty is an evidence-based model that looks at where along the criminal legal continuum could we intervene and either divert people from going into the criminal legal system, or once they're in, especially if there's a behavioral health or other component, to get them the services they need. And just pointing out that CIT is at intercept 1. But again, our entire community did this model. And in fact, I think we're re-looking at it now to see where else can we build services, or where are the gaps around crisis intervention in our community. So what does this look like at the Honolulu Police Department, which is where we've been focusing, but again, we're not exclusionary to this island. We want to support it, the building on other islands, but wanted to highlight what's part of the 40-hour course, which is really a best practice. As I mentioned earlier, we were blessed to get trained by PRA and Valor, which actually one of the founders, Sam Cochran of CIT, we were blessed to be trained by him. So we really follow the best practices model, which is 40 hours of training, as you see here, in a wide variety of mental health and substance use disorders training. Kumi does a culture and diversity training. Anissa, who's on here as well, does officer wellness. I do trauma-informed care and de-escalation. And then the part that our officers love the most and always talk about is the peer, consumer, and families perspectives panel. And just hearing from some of you today, that really gave me chicken skin and moved me. I hope that some of you may consider joining and sharing your stories as part of that panel. It's really, I think, the most touching part of the 40 hours and where the officers really get to hear those firsthand experiences on what made a difference when it came to law enforcement engagement during a crisis. And we're going to continue to hear actually from somebody who often shares. I believe Clay is going to share a little bit later about this, but we are seeking more trainers. There's me at the bottom training on de-escalation. I'm really proud to announce that we've had 89 Honolulu Police Department officers that are now trained as crisis intervention team officers, enough now that if there is a crisis and somebody's calling 911, we encourage you to ask for a CIT trained officer if you're calling here on the island of Oahu. And you're actually going to hear a story from Major in just a moment of where both we can ask for when we're calling, the community can ask for an officer, but also officers on scene can ask for CIT trained officers, and it really can make a difference. We have our next training in just a few weeks, and really excited that since we already have 89, we'll be breaking that 100 point to have over 100 officers at the Honolulu Police Department trained. Just wanted to end with thanking all of our partners. Again, this is a true community collaboration. Why it might be spearheaded by myself and the Hawaii Health and Harm Reduction Center and Kumi from NAMI. We have Mental Health America of Hawaii, the city and county, the State Department of Health, as well as multiple individuals and agencies that come together 4 times a year for these trainings, and also for our steering committee meetings. Yep, so there's me and Kumi, I think at one of the last trainings. Please do reach out to us if you want to get more involved. We do have a training of trainers coming up in July, and are always seeking more people to be involved in CIT Honolulu. So I'm going to end there and give it back to Dr. Gass to hear more. I believe Major might be next talking about the impact within the Honolulu Police Department. And thank you so much for being a trainer with us. And really, I know you've had a great experience, and hope we can continue to grow our cadre of trainers. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing, Heather. I want to hand this over to Major Mike Lambert.
Good morning, everyone. I'm humbled to be invited to share with all of you guys today. I see Kathleen waving and everyone, other familiar faces. But I just wanted to, those of you that know me, I just like to speak just real direct. So I'll just kind of jump in, and that when this program first came around, what it was I was actually working, trying to build out partnerships with specifically our homeless advocates. And what happened was when Dr. Rodriguez was seeking to bring CIT here, I guess the powers that be felt it'd be a natural blending of the two, because mental illness is so prevalent within our homeless community. So when it first came on, I can tell you right now, it wasn't very popular. Officers kind of gave a look to it like, what are we doing now? Or what do they want us to do? And it wasn't really popular. I can easily say, it's all anecdotal, that luckily maybe 10% of the department were just hearing about it and buying in, saying, yeah, that makes sense to us. But it really took the advocates working with us, their durability, their patience, to say that, yes, the officers at first are going to be slightly resistant. For those of you listening, that you guys, probably me speaking here is an oddity, right? Within the mental health community, to have a uniform officer speak, right? Because we've always been, and when I mean me, law enforcement, we've always been so separate from the social service world, right? The old method was to be very dominant, we come in, we dominate, right? And if we don't dominate, we die or we get people killed. And that's what we were ingrained to believe. So I came in about 20 years ago. I make 20 years this year. And that type of modeling for training had been going on for decades, right? So you're talking about from the 80s where you come in, you dominate, you're the officer, you tell people what to do. And if they don't listen, then you do your job, right? Which would mean use force, right? As we move into 2022, we're in a much modern world. The stereotypes surrounding mental health and other things are being destigmatized. And we need to be, and law enforcement needs to adjust as well, right? So I could say that over the last 3 years, I would go so far as to say we have about 70% of officers that support this type of model. And it didn't come easy, I tell you right now. It didn't come easy. What it took was what I always refer to the group is that snowball effect, right? Is where, we voluntold 20 people to come, right? You guys got it was a junior man thing and you come and you get this certification, right? And we send you off into the world. What happened is these officers would come and during a 40-hour training, they would be like, wait a minute, this actually makes sense, right? Of course, it didn't make sense to you guys because you guys come from that cloth. But for us, I mean, it is this far apart in regards to the ideology, especially the older you were in the department. But now there's an opportunity with the new generation of officers, which is why I'm at the training academy, to integrate it much earlier before they're taught more aggressive ways of thinking, which again aren't really appropriate nowadays. So as every class went out and they would go out and they would actually do it and it would work, right? They'd be like, oh my God, I did the thing from the training and we didn't have to pepper spray the guy or use force and I didn't even have to get dirty and oh my God, right? And then, it's kind of like Kung Fu, right? Where the other officers are like, what did you do? What did you tell him? What did you tell him? I don't know. I just asked him what's going on and, how can we help? And this and that. And they're like, what? Right? Is that all it was? And it's funny because we're very ignorant. We're very ignorant on just that added 10 seconds, that added 15 seconds, 20 seconds, right? To truly de-escalate the situation. And we would confuse the definition of de-escalation with reducing force. So for example, officers, you always hear, oh, we always de-escalate, right? What we meant was if they listen to our order, we won't use force. That's not de-escalation. Right? That's compliance, right? De-escalation is talking to someone, understanding why they are where they are, and then reinforcing with the officer that you just have to try, right? And one thing that really sold the training for me was when they say that it reduced injury to officers, right? This training will reduce injury to officers. And the reason why that really was a selling factor for me is that because I know if our officers aren't being injured, then we're not injuring the community. Because and sorry, I'm just very blunt, but if officers are getting hurt, I guarantee the person was hurt. It just doesn't work any other way. And I'm just being brutally honest with that. So if I see a sheet, industrial sheet, and I read it, officer was injured during an arrest, I can guarantee you that person was injured, and it's just not acceptable. Both ways, right? Both ways that we don't want our officers getting hurt, and we definitely don't want to hurt the community. In my 20 years, I have never met a single officer that has come through the academy or has come through the department that says, I can't wait to hurt somebody. It just, regardless of the stereotypes and regardless of the macho behavior that you guys will experience, it's not in our heart to hurt people. We sign up, we want to help the community. And again, we have been led to believe that years past that to help the community, you got to be the bad guy. And what I like about CIT is that's not true, right? Is that you can be both. You can be a true guardian, you can be patient. And there are times where unfortunately we'll have to use force, but only when absolutely necessary. And what I like is that the advocates do support the fact that they understand that there will be a point where the officer has no other choice for their own wellness and their own health, right? But as long as there's that opportunity that the officers are creating, I think that's where we've been able to dovetail the two worlds, right? Because if the advocates just say there is never, ever a circumstance in which force is appropriate, I'm going to be honest, officers will just fade away. Because as human beings, it doesn't play to our natural survivability, right? if you're telling me that that'll get that, in other words, I never matter ever, that's I think that anyone here can agree that that's not going to get us anywhere, right? So what the officers have done, and in fact, on the last training, what we decided to do is the two biggest questions that we have on the after action was, did you ever feel as if the training did not encourage officer safety? In other words, you matter. And so far, 100% said that the training definitely made them feel that the training was important to their well-being, and encourage their own self-worth. So like I said, it's been great. We've gotten to the point now where officers will actually call for a CIT officer. For, just the fact that they know they exist is important. The goal for us is 20%. So that would be 400 officers. We're at 89, like Heather shared. I can't wait to have that 100 mark. I think that'll be a very nice milestone. The pandemic did throw us off, of course, and we probably would have been closer to celebrating our 200th certification, but hey, sometimes you got to go with what you got. So just as recent as a few weeks ago, I don't know if anybody lives West Side, but it was a Monday, I believe, and traffic was snarly. What it was a jumper. And we locked down traffic for safety reasons for everyone involved. And actually the officers there, and I'm trying to see if I can get it released, but actually said, do we have a CIT officer available? So now even officers that aren't CIT trained are recognizing the value of the training and saying, I'm not really prepared to deal with this person because I only have my classic way, which is probably beg and then at some point tackle, right? Or now let's try and use these guys who have this, kung fu, right? And see if they can have a better outcome, right? So sure enough, officer, bravely answers the call. I'm CIT trained. I'll be right there. Long story short, utilizing the techniques, which again, I'm hoping to get the dispatch tapes, and then hopefully we can get the body camera footage so that people can see in the community that the officers are adjusting. And I don't like to call it change because change means you can change it back. I like evolution, right? Meaning that as a police department, we're evolving and it will just be ingrained. So one of the things that I'm very proud of, and one of the last things that unfortunately Chief Ballard did before she left was put me in the training academy. So my job here was to integrate de-escalation, integrate the importance of not using force all the time, right, to our recruits. So I'm planting seeds here, and everyone here that participates, Kumi, Kathleen, Clint, Heather, they're all watering those seeds for me, right? And hopefully when they sprout trees, we'll all get to benefit from that shade, right? I'm stealing that, right? It's one of those sayings, but we will all benefit from that shade, and it takes time. It takes time. It takes, durability from our advocates, from you guys. You guys may be disappointed. I just heard Major Lambert talk and he said all these things. That wasn't my experience. And it'll take time. Like I said, we got 89 out of 2,000, and slowly but surely we will get to 100%, as far as 20% being CIT trained, the other 80% being mental health first aid trained, meaning that everyone that wears a badge will be able to understand really what de-escalation means, not just reducing our force, but actual de-escalation. So like I said, it's been a great experience for me, and I don't want to take up any more time because I'd like to hear from Clint and Kathleen. So I'll turn it back over.
Mahalo for that heartwarming share. I'd like to now pass it over to Clint Oka, one of my fellow CIT presenters.
Hi, everyone. I'm Clint, and I live with schizoaffective disorder. And CIT is pretty cool, makes me feel like a superstar. But it also gives me a chance to share my story and also say thanks to the police officers and show them what a positive effect they had on my recovery. And so to give you a little bit of background, schizophrenia has psychosis. And when I was in psychosis, I couldn't understand like what was happening, or I didn't realize there was something wrong with me. And so, and there's no way to get diagnosed. Like you can't take a blood test and get diagnosed for schizophrenia. So in a way, the police officers were like a wake-up call to me, or like, it was more like, okay, wait, there is something wrong. I got arrested. And so after my incident, getting arrested was like intake, and it was like the first step of my recovery. And so, if they didn't arrest me and they just let me go on my way, I don't even know where I would be now. Maybe I would still be wandering around, still in my thoughts and stuff. And so, yeah, it's good to talk to them, because some of them said, like, I could feel like they're burnt out. They talk about seeing the same individuals and over again. And I got a chance to explain a little bit about agnosignosia, and they were kind of like, "Well, what is that?" And it was kind of cool to talk to them and kind of explain that sometimes people in psychosis might not even understand or believe that they're in psychosis, which is kind of scary to me, to be in that kind of situation. So yeah, overall it's been great, and yeah, thanks for your time. And the program is pretty awesome.
Mahalo so much for sharing, Clint. I'll now hand it over to one of our community partners in CIT, Kathleen Merriam.
Thank you, Ms. Dissa. Aloha, everybody. It's really great to see some folks I haven't seen in a while and meet some new people. So Kathleen Merriam here. I work for the Adult Mental Health Division, and right here I'm on the windward side. I oversee the mental health clinic here on the windward side of Oahu. I've been a NAMI friend, a NAMI person. It was the first nonprofit I ever joined in Washington State in 1984. So I'm a lifer of NAMI. I've been involved with CIT for a bit, and my role right now with CIT is I start the first day because I love greeting and saying aloha to the officers. That's not always been the case. I'll tell you why. But I like that first day, and I do a little scenario with one of my favorite psychiatrists, Dr. Chad Koyanagi, and we talk about psychotic disorders. And my portion is about hearing voices, because I think hearing voices can be one of the scariest things ever. And the exercise actually takes the officers into the feeling, what it might be like to hear voices and then get instructions, like do this, do that, but you're actually hearing these voices at the same time. And it's very disorienting. It takes a while to process. And it's a really great exercise. And I love that it's the first day. And so I have a little something to do with that. I help coordinate the resource fair, which is the last day. I love that because during the training, one of the things they do is they go out and they see some of the programs that they'll be dealing with. This last session, I got to go, I actually rode in a police car and went on some of those site visits, which was fantastic, where they get to meet the service providers that they often will be working with, or they already do work with, but they get to spend a little time there. And so, I mean, again, the curriculum to me is just top notch. It's so impressive. One of the things that has been really interesting to me is my perception of officers. So my first encounter with police officers was not so good. It was in the 80s. You already heard from Major Lambert that the 80s way of teaching was very different. It was kind of the slam them down, and especially if somebody was, well, my own mental illness hit me very early on. And unfortunately, I don't know why my voices had to do with a lot of anger and confusion, but it did require a lot of police intervention. And I just saw them as really the bad guys. So I remember a lot of aggression and violence. And so certainly I never saw myself in this role. I certainly never saw myself as advocating for police because I thought they were the bad guys. I also remember, though, the effective ones, the ones that were very nice, and what that meant, even though I was sick at the time. And so the idea of actually even working with police is, still kind of blows my mind. You know what I mean? I remember being involuntarily committed, and And the officers, had to do that. And so now to be thinking that officers are real people too, that's what this training has done for me. Is I watch them learn. I watch them watch us as trainers and experts. I watch them, a lot of these guys are, they're kind of, and gals, oh, the women are just these Amazon, women that are just so, they're my mentors. They're people that I want to be like. The men are still, a lot of them are still these big guys, can be kind of scary. And then they're kind of teddy bears about wanting to learn and ask us questions and wanting to do a good job. And it's been probably one of the best projects I've been involved with in a very long time. It's really an honor to be associated with this. And the potential of having more and more officers do this is super exciting. So for me, it's been really about changing a mindset and looking at what can be done to change our communities. It is that powerful. If you think about what police departments can do and improve our communities, our families, our loved ones, they have so much influence. And to just watch the kind of the paradigm shift, the culture shift. And NAMI is super essential in this. And all the organizations coming together, I'm just one cog in the wheel, right? But all of us coming together has been really powerful. So I guess that's how I'll end it, is that I think we have to watch out for this and make sure it's well supported, well funded. And next time you see a police officer, just challenge yourself a little bit and think, wow, I guess they do have a home that they go to, and they have a family that they go to, and they have maybe children that they are raising. And that's what I do now. And yeah, thank you. Thank you for listening. And thank you for your support.
Mahalo for that amazing share, Kathleen. And I just want to note, there's just so many beautiful comments coming in on the chat of all the community members supporting CIT and all the people who shared as panelists today. So it's just really heartwarming to see all of that. I'm going to hand this back to Kumi.
I think we're a little bit ahead of schedule. So Ms. Tisa, do you want to take some questions from the audience? Maybe we have a few minutes for Q&A.
Absolutely. If anyone has any questions they'd like to ask for any of our panelists, please feel free to drop that into the chat.
You know what, while we're waiting for people to think of questions, and again, they can address any of the panelists that we're sharing today, I'm going to go ahead and share my slide for the final portion. And you folks who are thinking of questions, start thinking about it and entering it into the chat. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my slides again. Let's see. Okay. So with that, we want to thank you all for coming today. And I wanted to share a little bit about some of the amazing programs that this partnership is offering. Mental Health America has been partnering with NAMI Hawaii to bring this conference to you for now, I think 5 years, right, Ms. Disa? Was it 6, 5? 5 years, I believe, right? I can't remember. But anyways, it's a great partnership, and we can't do this without each other. We can't do this without all of you in this mental health community. And so we are a community of hope together. And so I wanted to share a little bit about Mental Health America and their programs, and chime in, Ms. Disa, if you want to say something, but you can go to their website, mentalhealthhawaii.org. They do have a lot of free programs, great video clips on anxiety or children's self-care, or they also have mental health first aid for youth and adults coming up shortly. Those a lot of people out in the public used to charge $100 a pop for this course, sometimes 200, and Mental Health America is offering it free of charge. You have to register. So go to their website to find out more. You can also do some screening. If you think maybe, am I struggling with something related to mental health, there is a screening that you can go to. Is there anything else you want to share about the site? Where did that go? I don't know what happened to my, you know what? I put the wrong slide up, but there's also the Mental Health Mahalo Awards. I have the slide up, but I don't know why it's not on this one. Maybe you had to refresh. But Mental Health Mahalo Awards is coming up May 25th, 11 a.m. to 2. We're all coming. A lot of us at NAMI are coming, and hopefully you'll join us too. And we can see each other in person. It's going to be a lot of fun. Ms. Tisa, you want to say anything about that?
Our registration is open, and yes, all those wonderful trainings that we do provide for free for businesses, communities, for really anyone. You can contact us directly to have that set up, but also to register for our upcoming Mahalo Awards. That's all found on our website.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I've been waiting for that all through the pandemic. So we'll get to see each other in person. And then I also wanted to share with you again about our upcoming NAMI programs. So NAMI provides all of these programs free of charge on Zoom. So if you're on Molokai, if you're on East Honolulu, if you're in Lanai, if you have internet, you can join, but you do need to register. So please go to our website, namihawaii.org. We do have some amazing classes coming up, such as Family to Family that many of the presenters today talked about. That's coming up on May 7th, and space is very limited. It is an 8-week step-by-step course. And then we also have a shorter condensed version called Family and Friends, and that is coming up in April, I believe, April 9th and 23rd. So again, go to our website, namihawaii.org. We also have amazing peer programs such as peer-to-peer education, which is an 8-week step-by-step course for people living in recovery from mental health. And also we do have peer support groups, family support groups, and we have our Faith Net as well. Okay. We also have an amazing workshop coming up starting April 25th in person. Sorry, this is in Honolulu, and it's going to be talking about how to talk to someone who has anosognosia that a couple of our presenters today talked about. When someone is ill or struggling, but they don't want to get help, how do you get through to someone like that? So there is a workshop, 8 weeks. You can pop in and out if you can't commit to all 8, but you do need to register. Again, you can get more information on our website, namihawaii.org. And the last one is save the date, October 8th. We're going to be live at Honolulu Hale. That's our plan. And Anissa is already in the works for planning an in-person walk. Save the date, October 8th. And with that, we're back to maybe going back to Q&A. So with that, let's see. Let me
I have
stop.
one question, direct message to me. How does, oh shoot, just went away. How does one get involved with HPD CIT program to help in a volunteer capacity or otherwise?
Heather, you want to take that?
Sure. So there's a couple different ways. We have an open steering committee that meets about 4 times a year, and you can email myself or Kumi to get added to that, just to kind of be able to come to the meetings and learn more. Then secondly, if you're interested in a particular part of the training or helping, again, it would be Kumi or myself, kind of like how Kathleen, and we're not letting you go, Kathleen. We love that she's been coming and joining more and being on site. And so our next training is coming up in April. And so whether it's having somebody, if you're interested in a particular module, we would like folks to be able to come and observe that. If you want to get trained more or just be able to, see what's happening, we just ask that you coordinate it with us because we don't have a lot of extra room and want to make sure that we're not overwhelming the officers. But other than that, just reach out to myself or Kumi and we'll plug you in either the steering committee or the training or both. Yeah, Kumi. And again, if you're interested in getting more formally trained, we're looking at July 11th through 13th as a training, the trainers, but we do ask that you help or observe some of the April training first before you come to that piece.
I also wanted to shout out for Maui. So Danielle Bergen, way over there in Maui, we love you. And we know that you folks are highly involved with the Maui CIT, and our NAMI people as well are helping out with the Maui CIT. So there are ways to get involved with the other CITs on the other islands as well. And if you want to be a presenter like Clint, who does the peer and family perspective, sharing your personal story, again, also reach out to us as well. Thank you.
And then Kumi, somebody asked about Big Island. I believe that's something that you and your team are trying to nurture over there, yes?
So Big Island, they have flown over a few of the officers to the Maui training to be trained there, but they do not have a full CIT program. And so that's something that we're starting the conversation, just starting the conversation. So again, reach out to us and we'll include you in the conversation if that is something you'd like to get involved
Can I make a recommendation for that for the islands or
Sure.
other places are getting started? And this is like a law enforcement aspect, is that it's very important that whoever you guys choose to be the lead, the law enforcement partner, I hate to say it, but they gotta kind of have that gritty background. I'll share a little bit, is that I guarantee you guys 10 years ago, everyone here would have hated me. I was very classic in my approach. I was the enforcer, right? I was the guy that they would tell, go clear it out, right? And I would use classic ways of doing it, right? And then not just homelessness. I'm talking about, I was in charge of organized crime. I was in charge of real criminals, right? Not people in crisis, real criminals. But what that happened was that translated to everything I did, right? So when I embraced it, when I was sold on it, when, I don't know, something popped in my head, if you're religious, it's something like that, or just, I don't know, something I drank, but the light bulb went off in my head, and it resonated with me. It made sense. So when I changed and I embraced CIT, I embraced de-escalation, I embraced all these things. Actually, I was getting phone calls from guys that I used to work with. They're asking if I was all right. They're like, hey, somebody said you're helping the homeless now. Like what's going on? You okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. Why would you think I'm not okay? Like, well, I don't know. You're not really that type. You know what I mean? So to me, I think that what helps change the others that are like me, right? Is that I, not to pat myself on the back, but I have that credibility of being the enforcer, right? Of being that guy that doesn't get it. And now I do, right? Versus if you have a guy or gal who has just always been CPT, always been, they've never been in the trench, is what we call it, patrol officers, narco officers, riot control officers. I'm going to be honest, even within law enforcement, we have our cliques, right? So if you're that CPT only career, the other 80% of the department is going to look at you and go like this. Like, you guys don't get it. You've never been in the trench. You've never dealt with 50 people acting up, right? You never dealt with somebody like I've dealt with somebody. So you don't get it. Don't tell me to calm down and take time, right? You guys don't get it. So my advice to you guys is you guys got to try to find that advocate within the other departments that has that patrol background, has that riot background, has that, gritty background where I'm not talking out of my, right? I've been there, and I in my own personal experiences, I can tell you that had I known what I know now, I probably would have had better outcomes from the situations that I put myself into, right? I was very short. You had one option, right? You could comply. I'm going to ask you once. And then the second time, I'm not going to do it the way that I would do it now. Nowadays, I got all the time in the world. I'll talk to somebody. As long as they don't come at me and charge me, I'll talk and I'll talk and I'll talk. Because at the end of the day, what is time, right? What is time, right? It's just saving a life, saving myself. So That'd be my advice for those that are going to start it on the other island.
Thank you, Major Mike. I want to mention that you had a lot of good comments. Danielle said, I'm glad you drank the mental health Kool-Aid, Major. I thought that was cute. So we are also glad as well. Any other questions for the rest of our panelists? Also, Danielle had also mentioned that if you wanted to be on the peer and family panel for Maui, to give her a call, and her number's in the chat there.
So we have, do you need to finish family to family before getting CIT training, which, so CIT has 4 police officers, but if you do want to serve on the family and peer perspective panel, we would love for you to take the family to family class first, and we will script you and help you to tailor your story to present to the officers as well. Then I have, it was said that a CIT trained officer can be requested. How does someone do that? And if someone calls 911 for a mental health crisis, is there a procedure in place that leads to CIT officers responding more automatically?
That's a great question. I'll take that one. So we are training our dispatchers so that when they screen the call, and if they say, hey, you know what, I think this is more of a mental health crisis than a crime, what they're trained to do is look at the roster. So on our rosters, this is how advanced or how integrated CIT has become for Honolulu, is that an officer will have an indicator by their name if they're certified. So if they're certified, the dispatcher can see it on the roster and they'll call like whatever, 1 Mike 168, right? CIT officer needed at whatever. So call 911, you know, emergency, non-emergency. I would think generally it'd be an emergency, somebody's acting out. Then you take, can we give them the circumstances and ask, is a CIT officer available? So that's how you would do it. I like to promote a lot of interventions. So we do have a community outreach unit. So in other words, if you guys are trying, in other words, there's no crisis yet, but it's kind of building. And you feel that perhaps an officer's touch would be beneficial, then you can reach out to our community outreach unit. Unfortunately, that way you gotta go through regular channels because it's a non-emergency. So you just would go ahead and request it through email on our website, and then it'll get to our officers. So we do a lot of stuff out there. To me, I'm big on prevention. You know, if we can get somebody derailed from behavior that will be harmful to themselves or others, to me that should be the gold standard. Coming in to save the day, that's kind of like we've all, and I mean everyone within the system has not paid attention to someone's progress. And then we, of course, we want to be very appropriate at the end. But if we can be better at the middle, you know, in other words, being good friends, being good peers, you know, being good neighbors and saying, I think so-and-so could use a little bit of support. I think to me, that should be the gold standard.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, I have, what about the HR 113 2022? So having a team of psychologists as part of the police team.
Right, so we actually tried to get that back in 2019. Chief Ballard was all about it. We were trying to get 2 funded positions for at the time I was a captain of the community outreach unit, and we were trying to get 2. So what I was asking for was one that's specialized in substance abuse, and then one that's specialized in just general mental health. We weren't able to get it funded, so it's tough. And just so you guys know, just to give you guys some background, city budgets are done 2 years in advance. So anytime, so everybody's like, oh, why can't they get one? You know, there can be city council resolutions, there can be legislation from the state, but if it's going to be something that's operating budget, it generally a 2-year ask. So we weren't able to get it. It's something that we're open to. That bill, I think, would be a good model to show. The biggest thing is capacity for us, right? We're a 24/7 large organization. One is going to be a great start. And I would think that we'd probably plop them down in Chinatown to see what type of interactions we can get. I actually have it, you know, I know we're getting close on time, but I actually proposed to Chief Ballard a special services officer. And it's a big write-up. So basically what it would be is an officer like our community outreach unit officer, but they would have all of these certifications. It'd be CIT, mental first aid. I mean, anything that you could get, and they would be paired with a clinician. So it's on the table. It's something that we're, I advocate for, and it just takes time to show, because when it comes to big departments like this, I'm dealing with people that have generational logic, meaning that they're carrying logic from the 80s, and it's challenging. So I just keep playing my trumpet, and hopefully as time goes on and as I get support, it never hurts, because if you guys write to your council members and legislators and say we want more of that, then that does help me from the inside, not sounding like I'm some kind of off the rail officer, right? So it takes time is my point. And that bill, I think, is a great start. So I support it. I'm not allowed to speak for the department, but I do support it.
Okay, then I have, is there a sequential order to CIT? So meaning order of courses like peer-to-peer, then family, etc. Maybe Kumi or Heather?
No, CIT is a kind of a separate program that we offer support in as part of the community member. So it's not like you yourself would take a course in CIT. It's just that that's a program that NAMI helps support as a community member, as an advocate. So all of the other classes are for you folks. If you're living in recovery from mental health, then there are peer groups and peer classes. And then if you're a family member, you would take the family support group, family classes, etc. So if you want more information, please don't hesitate to call us or email us, and we could kind of talk you through that. I have one question for Major Lambert. I do get a lot of calls from people in the community saying, when is the ideal time to call and request a CIT officer? For instance, they're like, my son is acting up. And I said, well, maybe middle of the night might not be the best time. If you can wait till the morning, might be a better chance. Is that true?
Well, we're 24/7, and we try to spread out our CIT officers across all watches. So I just would say anytime. To be honest, the earlier the better. I think it's easier. I mean, when somebody is in full crisis, as many of you guys know, it's very challenging to build a bridge. So if we can, if they're, like I said, if they're kind of coming off, whatever the situation is, I personally would like to have it as early as possible, and just say, hey, where they can come out, they can talk, especially late at night, right? I would imagine Monday through Friday, probably better trained advocates would be available. But absolutely, after hours, if that's all the community has, and yeah, try and give a CIT officer a chance, because if not, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., you're gonna be calling 911 anyway. So, if 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, there's an opportunity where, perhaps they haven't taken their meds, or they haven't done anything, or they're not exercising good self-care, and they're on that track. And you guys know family members, and you guys can probably sense when a good opportunity exists. So the earlier the better, and I would say that anytime, like a wellness check. Yeah, so I see that in there. How you been, Bo?
All right, I have two more questions here. The first one, what can you speak to regarding what the mayor is referring to regarding the EMS wagon? Is this connected to HPD CIT department?
I'm not too sure what the context of that was. He might be talking about.
I think it's core. I think it's talking about core, the crisis. Yeah.
Right. So, oh, perfect. Yeah. So core. So what that is a EMS and then a clinician, a mental health clinician, or someone that specializes in dealing with someone in crisis. It's still in its pilot phase. I wasn't, because I moved on to training, I wasn't included in the rollout. So I'm not too sure where the integration, where HPD meets. I know that the deputy chief over there for EMS, Ian Santi, had asked if they can train some of their EMS. I'm assuming possibly some of their core officers with our CIT cadre. So we are going to open up 2 seats to them in the April class. And again, it's for everyone's benefit. Although it was built for CIT was built for officers, definitely firemen and other first responders can benefit from the training.
Thanks, Mike. And then now I have a relative using drugs. What do you recommend I start to get help to know how to intervene? I'll take that one real quick. Our mental health system has a lot of holes. Our family to family education program helps to fill one of them, and our family support groups as well. So I highly encourage you to attend both of those, and then it'll give you more of a path to go on. All
If I
right.
could just steal one more minute, you know, CIT, I just want to make sure that everybody realizes it's actually 3 parts. Yeah, there's the training, then there is the steering committee portion where we advocate, we come together as a group, we say these are the holes. And then the third part is actually where you guys come in, is where advocates will take our referrals, because what we train the officers on is that or what we ask the advocates for is that when we train the officers to refer to what, right? So in other words, and what you guys will find is that we have a very robust option system here in Honolulu. We have a lot of advocates that will take our phone calls, and that makes the difference, because if not, you know, jail is what we have, right? And we prefer not to. We're evolving. We understand that there's much better options, but then again, that option has to exist. So for you guys, for your different agencies and whatever group you do, whatever island you're on, part of participating in the training is seeing if you guys have bandwidth to go ahead and take referrals. So like the call in the night, right? Officers will go there because it's quick, but is there a referral for 24/7 for somebody who's better trained? Does that exist? Whether it be on Honolulu or any other island. So again, as you guys participate in CIT and you guys hear, you guys, a lot of times you hear the officers, they'll ask, and Kumi and Kathleen and Heather will tell you, they'll ask, oh, so who do I call then? Right? So in other words, they're totally open to it. They are absolutely open to it, but a service needs to exist for it to be diverted.
I also want to mention that our ultimate goal is to fix the gaps in services. And there have been many CIT communities all over the nation where, because the steering committees have come together, because the advocates all came together with law enforcement, they were able to create new programs, that create new hospital wings. The hospitals donated multi-million dollars creating a new wing. So there are amazing stories that happen because of the partnerships that are created with CIT. Any other questions?